At this time, we're ready for our show to begin. We'll bring the yearling rams up here to the ringside. We have 8 entries in our first class. These are yearling rams, the youngest being born March 19th up through April 29th of a year ago. They're about a year and a half of age. Our Shetland Sheep Show is ready to begin. We do want to welcome you here this afternoon to our Shetland Sheep Show. This is one of the many breeds of sheep that are being exhibited here. This is week 2 of our Big E Sheep Shows. The Shetland breed has a unique and wonderful fleece. It's very popular for the spinning industry. It's very strong fiber, very fine, very soft to the touch, and again, very popular here in our woolen sheep industry. They're moderate-sized sheep. They tend to be to the smaller side. They're great converters of grass and hay to good red meat. So underneath that nice coat of wool that you see there about the sheep is a very nice muscular body as well. Our judge today is Mr. Jake Reister from Washougal, Washington. We introduced him earlier. He's working the shows here our second half of week 2 at the Big E. He'll be judging here later on this afternoon, as well as we have 3 breed shows tomorrow before we judge our Supremes. So nice set of sheep shows here at the Big E. While you're going through our barn, we want to point out we have 6 different displays that exhibitors have placed in the center aisle back here for competition, and there's some very interesting displays. They'll teach you a lot about sheep, about the specific breeds of sheep, as well as agriculture here in New England. So anyway, while you're walking through our barn, just stop by and browse through and check out the displays and also the many different breeds of sheep that we hear at the Big E.
your Shetland yearling ram class, I think we got really some exceptional exceptional rams here to talk about. We got a few differences, and they're minor in some places, but a ram I really, in terms of my top spot, I think the thing that really sorts them for me is head and horn shape. As horn sheep breeder myself, I really got something against horns that turn in and turn back. Concerns me a great deal about this ram and two. Ram that starts us off, he's a big frame ram, yes, but in terms of when you start to part that fleece, I really like it in terms of the way that fiber works that character all the way out to the end on him. He's a big enough sheep for me. He moves very well. He's got enough power, I guess, for the breed. And when we start talking about tail shape and it being a very important part of our breed characteristics to talk about today, I think he's more than adequate to get us into that top spot. Really good fleece ram here, super structurally sound here in your second hole. Like this fleece as well. It's got a lot of character to it, maybe a little rougher, kind of a crimp to it, but a really consistent individual from fore to rear, a lot of balance to him. I'd like to change that horn and head just a tad bit for me today. The ram here in the 3-hole, ram with a lot of balance in his own right, more than adequate about his fleece, a good-headed kind of a sheep that moves pretty well about the ring. We'd like to see him maybe a little stronger on those front pastures. By far our youngest ram in the class, a really good tailed ram to talk about here in the 4-hole. Got plenty of balance to him, a good head to him. He's just that much farther behind, and he runs out of horsepower to kind of compete with the rams in front of him. Ram here in the 5-hole, a ram that's got a few more nits in terms of his fleece. He kind of gets together. You can't see the fiber quite as cleanly as some of the rams in front of him, but a ram with some balance and straightness to his lines.
You can work your senior ram lambs into the ring. They will range in age from March 20th up through April 3rd, are our senior ram lambs. And our junior class, the oldest one was born May 10th. Here's the placings in that yearling ram class. Our first place ram was exhibited by Victoria Wiggins with Painted Knoll 1713 on Brayburn. He weighed 137. Our second place yearling ram was exhibited and bred by Montana Airy of Bolton, Massachusetts with Wild Air Johnny. He weighed 116. In third place was Georgiana Springs Tube from West Stockbridge, Massachusetts on Springs Tube's Jack. He weighed 97. Fourth place and fifth place honors each went to Michelle Springs Tube of West Stockbridge. Sixth place was exhibited by Alexandra Springs Tube, and seventh place honors also to Alexandra. Georgiana Springs Tube rounded out the class with Biscuit. And reading that class from top down, it is 2 with a weight of 116, 1 weighing 137, 4, 6, 7, 8, 3 at 97, and 5 was Leprechaun.
Ram that starts us off, beautiful fleece on this sheep and really pops at you from the start. Just as we sort back through him back and forth, and it really became very evident he worked himself to the top of the pile. Yes, he's not the heaviest in terms of his skeleton, but I think a really good headed kind of a ram, really good fleece kind of a sheep, more than adequate about his fluting on his tail, and he gets right there to the top of the pile real quick. The ram here in 2 more closely exemplifies him, maybe a little flatter in his hooks to pins than the ram that's in 3, a little longer sighted as well. Another really good fleece kind of a ram, and just kind of works himself on that second hole with no faults. The ram here in the 3 hole, a ram that gets a little bit shorter through the front 1/3 of his body, doesn't quite stride as well as the rams in 1 and 2, but a ram that when you handle this fleece in really soft fleece kind of a sheep, a ram that you like to maybe just balance up a little bit to compete with the rams in the first 2 holes. The ram that's here in 3, a ram that maybe just has a little bit more knit to his fiber today as we look and sort through him from front to rear. A ram maybe we'd like to change his tail shape just a tad bit more in comparison to the first 3. A ram that's pretty good in his own right, though. Ram here in the 5 hole, again, a little bit shorter topped kind of a sheep. Doesn't quite fill his track when he's on the move. We'd like to change that horn shape just quite a bit to move him farther on up the line.
We'll catch the weights on these 3 senior Ram lambs. Then we'll judge our junior Ram lamb class. Here just momentarily we'll call them in. We have catalogs for the New York Sheep and Wool Festival up here. For those of you that would like to learn more about the sale, we have nearly 70 head of sheep over in Rhinebeck, New York, in about 3 more weeks. Here's the results of our senior Ram Lamb class. First place honors went to Olivia Tower with Olive Branch Juniper Berry. He weighed 62. Our second place ram in the class was bred by Montana Airy with Wild Air Basil. He weighed 55. In third place was Carol Airy with Wild Air Reed. He weighed 49. Our fourth place ram lamb in the class was also from Carol Airy on Wild Air Grover, a son of Rebus and dammed by Fanny. In fifth place was Isabel Tower with Marzipan. Sixth place honors went to Montana Airy with Wild Air Darcy. Seventh place was shown by Isabel Tower with Freddie Schnitzel. And rounding out the class also from Olivia Tower was Freddie's Reuben.
class of late-born buck lambs here. Shetland ram that wins. It's just that much bigger, stouter, straighter made sheep in terms of just total more mass to him. A ram that's pretty good in terms of his skeletal makeup. He's pretty straight in his lines. Real good footed kind of a sheep with more than adequate fleece. Ram most like him in type and kind is probably the ram here in two. And we're getting into some sheep that it's almost unfair to start evaluating with their ages. A ram that I think probably in terms of his fleece, if we were going to play the game of guessing, I think we're good there. I think we can safely say those horns are probably going to be out far enough on him, and his tail shape and flute is good enough to this point. But a ram that I think it's got plenty of balance. Ram here in the three hole, a really straight made kind of a sheep. He's got the fleece, I think, that's going to excel over the ram here in four. Lamb in four, just a little bit more cross knit to him, not quite as much development in that manner. I like him in terms of he's got a little bit more chest floor. We'll work into a couple of rams. The ram here in five, a ram that we'd like to reevaluate in terms of another 6 months down the road, and we talk to the breeder about the lamb in sixth.
Okay, we'll weigh these top three before we judge our pairs of ram lambs. Here's the results of our junior ram lamb class. First place went to Georgiana Springs Tube from West Stockbridge, Mass, with Springs Tube's Manny, and he weighed 62. Our second place ram lamb in the class from Alexandra Springs Tube with Springs Tube's Mango, weighed 42. The third place lamb in the class from Georgiana Springs Tube was Springs Tube's Danny, and he carried a weight of 30 pounds. Fourth place honors went to Springs Tube's Gumdrop from Alexandra's flock. Fifth place from Mershell Springs Tube with Gin, and sixth was Mershell's Tonic. Okay, we're going to pick our Grand and Reserve Champion Shetland Rams. We'll line them up. We're going to recognize our pair class winners here at this time while we're lining up our Rams for the champion lineup here. That pair class was won by Montana Airy from Bolton, Massachusetts. And in second place was Carol Airy. Third place honors were won by Olivia Tower, and fourth place went to Georgiana Springs 2. We're going to have these two middle rows of bucks come on up for the camera. Our fourth place pair went to Georgiana Springs 2, and fifth place went to Isabel Tower. Sixth place honors to Alexandra Springs 2, and seventh to Mershell Springs 2. Here are the exhibitors with Rams out here competing for our grand champion honors here of this afternoon's Shetland show. We're going to start here with Victoria Wiggins in the first place yearling ram with Brayburn. The second place ram in that class was exhibited by Montana Airy. Our senior ram lamb class winner was Olivia Tower, and the runner-up was Montana Airy. And our spring ram lamb class we just completed. First place was Georgiana Springs 2, and second to Alexandra Springs 2. Our champion ram goes to Victoria Wiggins of Ashby, Massachusetts, and our senior ram lamb class winner from Olivia Tower was Reserve. Olivia Tower with our champion ram. And Olivia Tower again. Congratulations, Olivia, with both the champion and reserve champion rams in our junior show. This is our class of Shetland yearling ewes. The Shetland breed is known for its outstanding fleece characteristics. They're a breed that's relatively new here in the United States, but they've gained very much in popularity and for their friendliness and their gentle disposition, their moderate size, and again, their outstanding wool quality. The spinning community really enjoys their fleeces. They're very soft, very nice and fine to the touch, and just a very enjoyable product there to spin with. They like the multicolored fleeces about them, very attractive. When they dye them, they make very, very nice variations in the colors when they blend the dyes with those browns and tans and beiges and blacks that you see out there. So very popular breed, just one of the many wonderful breeds of sheep that we raise not only here in New England, but throughout the United States as well.
a ewe that propels herself to the top, both on fleece, head shape, and muscle mass. I think pretty easy place for me to start here in this cream-colored, white-colored ewe. I really like this sheep when you part her fleece. Lots of balance, tremendous amount of top in her. She's still got some substance of bone and body to her. I think just a really nice individual to talk about when we started talking about hip shape and even when you put the tail to her. I mean, I think she's got pretty good design there. Ewe that's most like her in type and kind is the piebald ewe here that's in the 2-hole. I really like this ewe in terms of her levelness, the straightness of lines, her ability to move pretty well. I think she makes a nice place to follow in the 2-hole. The ewe that's in 3, maybe a smaller version of the ewe in 2 a little bit. Maybe we'd like to change her out of that front wheels just a tad bit every once in a while. Her fleece doesn't part quite as free and easy, doesn't quite show off the luster that we have in the first 2 ewes, but a good ewe in her own right. Ewe here in 4, there's really nothing wrong with this sheep in terms of her design. She's not a very big package. She doesn't come with the fleece weight that I see in my first 3 individuals. There's not enough of her for me to get her up into the top 3, 4 hole any farther than 4th. But I really appreciate her straightness, her levelness, her correctness, and her design. Ewe that rounds us out here, a ewe that gets a little soft off those front pastures from time to time, but you really like her in terms of her fleece when you part that open, and that really gets her into the top 5. Nice set.
Our yearling ewe class was won by Alexandra Springstube with Pandora, and our class winner was won by Penelope, and our class winner weighed 106. Second place went to Alexandra Springstube on a yearling ewe that weighed 82. In third place was Georgiana Springstube, and her ewe, Raisinette, weighed 90. The second place ewe was Pandora. Fourth place honors went to Isabel Tower with Celine, and in fifth place was Mershell Springstube with Springs Mershell. Sixth place honors were won by Isabel Tower with Freddie's Rhea. Seventh place to Georgiana Springtube on Springtube's Sunshine. Eighth place was exhibited by Montana Airy with Wild Air Cadence. And ninth place honors to the Olivia Tower flock with Flora. In 10th place was Olivia Tower with Cedar. 11th place honors went to Mershell Springstube with Honey Bear. And rounding out the class was Nellie from Montana Airy. Our pair of yearly new class was won by Alexandra Springs 2. Our second place honors went to Georgiana Springs 2. In third place was Isabel Tower. In fourth place honors went to Montana Airy. Fifth place was Olivia Tower, and sixth place to Mercial Springs 2.
ewe with a lot of style and balance here, an adequate fleece on her. A ewe that's probably got a little bit more years growth to her in terms of her age. A ewe that's got a little bit more fleece to her than some of the other ewes in the class. Maybe not. She could have been sheared a little bit earlier, but I think a ewe that's still adequate about her quality there. Really good in her top line, really good in her tail, and a ewe that's extremely correct in her balance. A ewe that's most like her in type and kind here in the 2-hold. If we can find her, I'd like to balance her up just a little bit more. Some of that is the wool that's on this ewe. She's a tremendous fleece sheep, just from end to end. Tremendous character all the way out onto the tips as you break it down through the britch. Another really good ewe in terms of you start looking at her tail quality. Ewe here in 3. A ewe gives up a lot of balance to some of the ewes in the 1 and 2 hole. A ewe with a really nice fleece from front to rear as well. A ewe that's maybe not as much thickness or as much dimension to the sheep yet, and she shows it. I mean, she's a little bit smaller about her poles, not as much skull width to her as the ewes in front of her, not as heavy in her structure. Ewe that's here in the 4 hole, another young appearing lamb, a lamb that we'd like to change her tail quite a bit, but we do like the way that she sets from her hooks to her pins. A ewe with some levelness to her design. We'd like to maybe change that fleece just a tad. Ewe here in the 5 hole, another really good balanced sheep, another good structured sheep. We'd like to change her tail just a little bit more. Gives up some mass and power to the ewes in front of her. A good set.
Nice class of junior ewe or senior ewe lambs. Nice class of senior ewe lambs. Weigh these top 3 and we'll share the results. Here's the weight on our senior ewe lamb class winner. Was exhibited by Alexandra Springstube. Was Springstube's Trisket. She weighed 73. Our second place ewe lamb in the class was exhibited by Montana Airy with Wild Air Riley, and she weighed 51. In third place was Isabel Tower with Freddy's Ambrosia, and she weighed 52.
a ewe that does a pretty handy job of winning the class. And it's a little bit difficult to evaluate the sheep on fleece alone when we start talking about age bracket. It's going to change a lot between when this lamb was born and when that lamb was born. And then just the next 6 months on top of it. But a ewe that I really feel like we really get some character to look at in terms of this fleece. It lays really open. It's not knitted up. A lamb that's certainly done well per day of age, and I think it's got a natural thickness and tail to her to stand in the first hole. You most like her in type and kind in terms of her fleece is here in the 2 hole. She's not as robust in her makeup as maybe the ewe that wins the class, but you really like that fleece. It's got some handle to it. It's soft. It's still got some character, especially as she breaks it down into the britch. It'll be interesting as she moves into be a yearling ewe, whether she carries that through. You here in the 3 hole, a ewe that's got a little bit more knitting to the fiber as we move back through it in terms of off her shoulder, not so much as we get through the center portion of her body on back. Another good ewe in terms of her tail set. We like it in terms of her tail shape as well. You here in the 4 hole, a little bit younger appearing lamb, certainly runs out of horsepower in terms of when we start talking about age and power, weight, and she runs out there. But in terms of her length of spine, it's going to be interesting to watch this sheep continue to grow for us. Maybe not the heaviness of structure, and she's certainly a little bit shorter at her chest floor in comparison. I don't see her being quite as massive in her total makeup at maturity. You here in the 5 hole, a ewe that's a little bit smaller in her design. Yet again, she's more refined in her head and her legs. A ewe that doesn't quite have as much breastbone to her. A ewe that when we start to analyze her back over her tail head and about her tail, we'd like to change the shape just a little bit more. Lamb that rounds us out here just runs out of days on age. She's just not quite as many days where she's had away from mom to be here. Thank you.
We can line up our pairs of ewe lambs at this time. We'll show our pairs. Our junior ewe lamb class winner was Carol Airy from Bolton, Massachusetts on Wild Air Hazel. The winning lamb weighed 43. The second place honors in class went to Alexandra Springstube on Springstube Kissy Lips from West Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and she weighed 29. In third place was Alexandra Springstube with Tangerine, and she weighed 36. Our fourth place ewe lamb in the class, Michelle Springstube. Fifth place honors to Georgiana Springstube, and sixth place to Michelle Springstube. First in our ULAM class, the pairs, was Montana Airy. Second place went to Alexandra Springs 2. Third place to Isabel Tower. And fourth place honors were won by Olivia Tower. Fifth place was shown by Georgiana Springs 2, and rounding out the class was Mershell Springs 2. We're now ready to pick our open show grand champion U. Let's line up our first and second place yearlings, seniors, and juniors to the ring at this time. Here competing for our champion U honors, we have the first place yearling U, was exhibited by Alexandra Springs 2. Alexandra also had the runner-up in our yearling U class. The first place senior U-Lam was shown by Alexandra Springs 2, and the runner-up went to Montana Airy. And in our junior U-Lam class, the first place U-Lam was shown by Carol Airy, and our runner-up in that class was Alexandra Springs 2. Our champion U's both go to Alexandra Springs 2 with her champion and reserve champion on her first and second place yearling U's. And they will also be your junior show champion and reserve champion U's. Here in our exhibitors flock, first place went to Alexandra Springs Tube. Second place honors went to Montana Airy, and in third place was Olivia Tower. Fourth place honors went to Isabel Tower, and in fifth place was Georgiana Springs Tube. Sixth place went to Mershell Springs Tube. Mom says it's all good. It's all good. Next order of our business will be our breeder's flock, so if you need to make any changes, please let us know. We will have 4 entries in our breeder's flock. Our first place breeder's flock went to Alexandra Springs Tube, in second to Montana Airy, third to Isabel Tower, and fourth place to Georgiana. Our final group class will be the Get of Sire. Our first place Get of Sire went to Alexandra Springs Tube, second to Montana Airy, Third place honors to Olivia Tower. Fourth to Georgiana Springs Tube. And fifth also to Mershell Springs Tube. Our best fleece winner today went to Olivia Tower. Olivia, we need a picture of your best fleeced Shetland, and also the exhibitors here with our champions and reserves, or any others will get a quick picture over at the stand at this time. We need a representative of the Alexandra Springs Tube flock to the ring, please. All righty, on behalf of the Eastern States Exposition, we want to give the Springs Tube family the Alex Springstube, the overall Premier Exhibitor and Breeder Awards here today. Nice round of applause here to Alexander Springstube on a job well done. Congratulations again.